If you're a student going into year 11 or year 12, then chances are you're gonna set a lot of goals and expectations for yourself. We all do. Now, for some of these goals and expectations, you will fail. And naturally, disappointment will follow. Now, what I need you to understand about this disappointment is that it is a very sharp, double-edged sword. You see, it's got the potential to either drag you down and turn you into a shell of your former self, or if you use disappointment in the way that I'm going to show you how in this video, you can use it to propel yourself to your greatest heights. So if you're interested in learning how to use disappointment, not to break yourself down, but to build yourself up, then I'm sure that my personal experiences will be of invaluable information. Alright, so now I'm gonna say a quick story about myself before I explain my tactics and stuff. So, can I not drag this? Alright, so the story is, around 6 months ago, I completed an assessment for a subject called Spec B, which is, it's like advanced mathematics basically, or like a higher level of maths for those of you who aren't in the ACT. Now, some background information is, for me, this is a subject that it's one that I perform well in, and I also enjoy quite a lot. So safe to say it's a very important subject to me. And in my previous performances, so this story happens at the start of semester 2. So semester 1, that was my semester. I dominated, I took it home, it was a really good semester. Now semester 2 on the other hand, I'd say in the gap between semester 1 and semester 2, I made some questionable choices and I shot myself in the foot basically, which I'll be talking about in another video, but for now, the context is I was a bit unsure about if I'll do as well as I did in semester 2 as I did semester 1, but first test was pretty good. Now we have our 30% assignment, no, 35 or 40% assignment, so safe to say a very important task. So as you may know, if you know me or take my word for it, I'm pretty, I'd say, confident in my mathematical ability. I'd say I'm pretty good at it. And so I was expecting a really good mark, and this was a take-home assignment, so it wasn't even like I could do silly mistakes because I can just look at it over again. It's not like that. So I was expecting I'm gonna do so well, right? Now my teacher, he's got this habit of when he hands your paper back, he likes to, I guess, he's not trying to do it on purpose, but you can tell that he's either impressed or not impressed with your performance. So he'll obviously adjust it to your caliber of student, obviously, but if he thinks you underperformed, as he hands a test back, you can see his face, dude, this he's not impressed. But if you do well, you can tell. So typically he gives me impressed faces or indifferent faces. I haven't experienced a bad mark yet in this class. Now he's handing this back, and keep in mind this is a high weighting task, so it's a very important task, right? I'm shaking. I'm dude, because I'm always nervous for a test, before I get a test back. Even if I know I did well, I'm still nervous. I'm sure we all are. But anyway, he hands it back to me, and I can see the trademark face of disappointment on his face. He's like, dude, Danuga, what have you done? But he doesn't say it, but I can tell, right? So I'm a bit confused because I'm still thinking to myself, dude, I had to have done well. Anyway, I see my mark. It hit me really hard because this was low. See, I was on a table with 3 other mates who were all pretty smart. Well, I think 2 friends, and they're both smart, and they both beat me. No, I beat one, but he got super unlucky. He forgot to do a page of his stuff. But the other one, he beat me. So I was like, dude, what the hell? I was a bit shocked. Now, what you can do if you if you get back an assessment, is you can log on to the BSSS site and it shows you your data. So the most important one is you're called a Z score, which shows if you're above the average or below the average. Now, I'm still thinking, okay, I'm still going to get a Z score of 1 or like 0.7. I'll still be above the average. To like explain it, if you get above a 0 Z score, it means you beat the average. If you got a negative Z score, it means you got below the average. And the higher the number, the more you beat the average by, in a good way or bad way. So if I got like a negative 1.5, that's terrible, but like a negative 0.5 is okay, right? So anyway, I log on and I see the Z score. Keep in mind, I have not received a negative Z score in any class yet. I'm still having a great year 11, and this class especially, I was not expecting to see what I saw. I saw a negative Z score. I had done below the average of my class. Now, I'm not trying to be cocky or anything, but I would definitely say that my potential is not below the average of this class. So safe to say I was shell-shocked. I was in disbelief, because not only was this an important task that I thought I had done well in, but obviously, as I can see, I've done terrible. I've done below the average and there's really no saying that I could have, no, like I 100% could have done better. And that was where the biggest source of disappointment came from. So back on story time. So I see this mark, right? And in my mind, it hasn't hit me yet, right? Now, a couple of like classes and hours go by, and I cannot focus on anything because I'm still in shock, right, dude? Like I'll contemplate. Like I was in my family group chat and I told my parents, and I was like, dude, like my parents are gonna look at me like I'm brain dead. Like I'm gonna get cooked at home. Like my parents aren't strict that much, but obviously I was mad at myself. My friends were like, bro, what the hell, Danuka? Like you always do so well. What happened here? People around me were like, bro, what's going on? I knew I'd underperformed, and the disappointment, safe to say, it felt terrible. The worst I've ever had that I can remember. It was absolutely horrible. Like it tore me apart. I couldn't sleep that night because in my mind I was like, maybe I'm stupid, bro. Maybe I'm I'll get an ATAR of like 64, which is like, an ATAR is from 99.95 to like 30, and then below is like a mystery ATAR, but like, you're cooked. But I was like, bro, I'm gonna get such a shit ATAR. Like, I was so scared. Like, I could not sleep. I was so depressed. On the way home, I sat in the back seat and I was talking about it, and there was like, my mum was like, so in Australia we drive on the right side, so I was in the back left, and I was crashing out. I like punched the seat in front of me. I was having a crash out. Like my mum was like, bro, I'm gonna have to drop you off now. Like walk back home. You're like, this is unacceptable. Like I was in a terrible state of mind. Like it shook me to my core. And luckily for me, if I had not understood these things, and I would say literally by the luck of the whim, or the whim of the luck, I was able to, like, I guess, understand these techniques I'm gonna tell you. But if I didn't intrinsically know them, and I'd gone down the route that everyone else goes, where they let the disappointment eat them alive, I would have done so bad that entire semester. I'd have downward facing momentum. I'd just be finished, right? So I can genuinely attest to the power of these strategies, because I was in a very bad position mentally. Like, I'm not depressed or anything, but I was second guessing my own intellect. I was super duper unsure of myself. So, and that can have devastating consequences, because if you think that you're stupid and you do a test, you're going to carry that energy into your work. So to simplify things, I was I was going very downhill. I had two paths. Path one led me down and down and down, and will just ruin my life basically. Because I mean, if I get a bad ATAR, I can't. It'll change my life for sure. But the second path, which was, I can confidently say, I took the second path, and this path led me on a path of recovery that used this disappointment as fuel to work harder and get back. And as a result, I can safely say that the things I'm going to tell you in this video, they're genuinely life-changing. So it's fully worth it. Stick around. Alright, so now I'm going to talk about the technical things. So about when does disappointment come, where does it come from, and the circumstances surrounding it. So I'd say the most important prerequisite of disappointment is falling short of a goal. So this means you have an expectation in mind, and that expectation doesn't happen. When that happens, that's where the disappointment comes from. You know, it's all rooted in expectation, right? So that's the first thing. The second thing, which is something that I've personally noticed, is that I get more disappointed when I didn't work hard for something that I know I could have worked harder. So an example is, if I walk into the gym and I try to bench press 200 kilograms and I can't do it, I'm not going to be that disappointed, because like realistically I can't bench 200 kilograms. Like it's not within the possibilities right now. But if I, let's say, have a test coming up, I'll give a personal example. Maybe about 2-3 months ago, I had a chem test coming up. The test before this, I got 100%. It was like an easy multiple choice test. It wasn't deep, right? So I was expecting good marks in that, but I didn't try because I had 4 exams before this, and I'd finished those ones, and I was so burnt out. I was like, dude, like honestly, just fuck chemistry. I don't really care about it. And then what ended up happening was that I didn't work as hard as I could have, and as a result, I got a pretty poor score. And even though I know chem is going to be my minor subject, so basically for those of you who don't know, I do 4 semesters of chem and like only 2 count. So I wasn't too phased about having that bad test because I'd already known that I'm not going to count this semester anyway. But I knew that I could have worked harder and got a better mark, but I didn't. And that caused more disappointment. So super importantly, you get more disappointed when you don't work as hard as you could. Now, something else that I've noticed in me is, and it's not to say I'm like jealous of a person or envious, but if I see people who are like sort of on the same level as me perform higher than me, that also shows me I wasn't working hard enough. But then there is that element of like, how did this guy do it and not me? You know what I mean? So that's also something that can make you more disappointed in yourself. And again, if you think that you had the potential to reach your goal, but you didn't because of, I guess, anything really, more so not working hard enough, but if you thought you had the potential or you should be able to do something, but you don't, that's when it hits more. See, I'm not going to get pissed if I don't play in the NBA, because like I'm not expecting to play in the NBA. But if I join a youth basketball tournament, I don't play basketball. If I join like a youth cricket tournament, no. If I tried to try for cricket ACT, I probably should make it. Like, I'm kind of waffling right now. But the point is, if it's within your realm of possibility and you don't get it, that's when it hurts more. So these are, I guess, the factors for me that I've sort of experienced and realized that cause disappointment and amplify it. So now I'm going to talk about the 2 types of disappointment that I've found out for myself, which are constructive disappointment and destructive disappointment. And it sounds like they're two types of disappointment, but in reality, it's the same disappointment, but the distinction is how you react to the disappointment. So an analogy is this. If you're on a running track doing hurdles for 500 meters, you approach a hurdle and you trip over it and you fall, that causes the same disappointment in, imagine two identical people, person C and person D, constructive and destructive. So person C and person D, they both hit the obstacle and they fall over. Person D sits on the track and starts crying. He's like, dude, there's no way, I can't jump these hurdles, I'm too slow, I haven't got the hops for this, right? Person C just switches okay, you can't do this in a real track, but to my analogy it'll make more sense. You'll see why in a minute, but it makes more sense in this analogy if you just hop the next track, keep running, and you're like, dude, in the last 50 meters I kind of slowed down a bit, my footwork was off, my technique was off, I'm gonna grind it now, I'm gonna hustle with my technique and my accuracy and all that. When the next hurdle comes, you jump it, right? So what you have to understand is with these two people, it's the same disappointment, it's the same expectation that got blown away, but the reaction is very different, right? So to bring it back into more of a general context, constructive disappointment inspires action and inspires you to do more and actually achieve something using the heartbreak. But destructive disappointment makes you feel like helpless failure. And really, genuinely the most important thing is the word helpless. I'm going to explain why in a minute. I'm going to explain this switching lanes thing and the helpless thing in a minute, but these are the most important things. So the most important lesson from this slide is that the disappointment isn't what causes an adverse reaction or a positive reaction. It's how you handle it that dictates what happens going forward. So now I'm going to tell you why the conventional advice fails. I'll put this down here. So I'm sure your mom or your dad or your teacher or your study skills mentor has told you this advice. If you fail at something, what you need to do is you sit down with a book and you write down, I failed because I didn't work hard enough. Next time I'll work harder. Obviously, you're not going to be that harsh on yourself. I mean, you might be. In fact, you will be. I'll tell you why you will be. But the advice is you sit down, you reflect, what went wrong? What didn't I do? What should I have done? What should I do next time to make myself not fail? And yeah, right? And this sounds healthy and perfect and normal. But what this advice forgets to, or what this advice neglects, is that you as a person are not a robot. You are not a robot. So if you fail at something, you're not going to think, oh yeah, I failed. I know why. I'm thinking rationally. If you fail, like me, you're going to be distraught, punching shit. Not punching shit, but you're going to be distraught, crashing out. You're going to in your mind, you'll be cooked mentally. You're not going to be in a rational state of mind to then make good choices about what to do next, right? You feel like a failure, your self-esteem comes down, your confidence comes down, your rationality to make good decisions and choices and reflections comes down. All of these parameters are coming down. You're in this weakened, hyper-emotional, vulnerable state of mind. And the conventional advice just forgets this completely. It just says, no, you have to be on your A game all the time. And what I'm trying to tell you is that for more harsh disappointments, your emotions are going to be too out of control for you to make a good, rational decision that this conventional advice lets you do. So the things I've written down here are, the conventional advice just assumes that you can think rationally and all that when you feel terrible, and your self-esteem is down, and obviously things like that. So that's where I think that the conventional advice that's actually ingrained in all of you, because you've only heard from your mom and your dad and your teacher how to overcome disappointment this way. You've heard it 500 times. I've heard it a million times, right? I've failed that many times. I've heard it a million times, genuinely. Okay, not a million, but you get the point, like a lot of times. And it becomes ingrained on you, and it becomes like second nature. So, and what I'm trying to say is that what's inside of you right now, in terms of how you react to disappointment naturally, is destructive, and it will cause you to go down in a downward spiral, right? This is very unhealthy. Okay, let's get back into it. So now I'm going to tell you my advice, and why my advice is actually similar to the conventional advice, but it actually allows you to, first thing, take care of your emotional burden, because you're going to be very stressed emotionally. It's not going to be a good feeling. So my advice, the first thing, it tackles that. It brings up your self-esteem and confidence, and it puts your brain in a position to then make rational decisions. So my thing, it combines a mental shift and practice. Yeah. So what that means is that what I'm trying to tell you how to do, the first thing is it shifts your mentality from self-hating to self-reflecting, because you can't self-reflect when you're self-hating, and self-hating comes when you fail. So the first thing is turn your brain away from self-hating into self-reflecting, and then we do some tailor-made practical steps that I'm going to show you the exact steps that work for me perfectly. And this way we can avoid the self-hate, preserve self-esteem, and ensure that your plan moving forward isn't contaminated by your emotional burden. For example, if I just got a bad test back and I start making a plan to get better, I'd be like, I'm gonna study 10 hours a day. I'm gonna sleep 2 hours. I'm not gonna eat a crumb of food till I get it. I'm like, bro, you're in an emotional state of mind. That's what you're gonna say. In reality, that's not a good plan. That's gonna make you worse. So the first thing is to get out of that rut, and then we can discuss. So, and the thing is, like, this may seem obvious and like second nature. Trust me on this. You haven't nailed this properly. And I tell you haven't nailed this because I see it all the time in classes where we get tests back. I look around the room, I see disappointed faces. I know, I can tell because I've been in the same shoes. These reactions are not healthy, and if they had a slight shift that occurs mentally, all the tips I'm going to give you are mental tips, and if you apply them correctly, you will be so much better off. So here's my advice. The first thing I need you to do is to first literally, so here is the, I guess, the crux behind the first point, right? So your brain can generate automatic thoughts and manual thoughts, and this is more specifically about how it feels about yourself. So from growing up and your experiences in life, your brain has a view of yourself. Like, obviously, looking at me, I think of myself as a young, handsome but the point is, your brain has a view of yourself. It knows where you're good at and what you're bad at, and because it's you who's analyzing yourself, there is a bias there, and this bias can be harmful. And this is what people refer to as like self-image and self-confidence. It's what you see of yourself. So your self-image is determined by your automatic brain thoughts. What your brain automatically thinks about you is what your self-image is. Now, a manual thought is me literally like deluding myself into thinking, no, I am 6'8", I'll play in the NBA. Like, I mean, obviously I'm not going to be 6'8" and play in the NBA, but if I put this into a more context of like something achievable, if no, I can succeed in school, I can succeed in business, like it sounds like I'm shouting affirmation in the mirror, like it sounds like hocus pocus, right? But like I'm being very genuine and very genuine. I'm being dead ass. If you think of and literally force yourself to think enough manual thoughts, no, I can still achieve my goal. I can still get an A in this class. I still can top this class. I still can get into my dream university course. If you hammer it into your brain, and you have to have cast a like a wide net. So you think first, you think I can get into my course. You think I am hardworking. I'm not stupid. If you think these automatic thoughts enough, I swear to God, then so if you think these manual thoughts enough, sorry, then automatically your brain will start to pick up on this, right? So my most important thing, or my first step is I don't care if it's true or delusion, you hammer it into your brain, you can still achieve the end goal. And obviously your end goal should be achievable anyway, right? I'm not going to aim to climb Mount Everest barefoot because it's unachievable. It's not possible. I'm going to achieve for something that I know in my heart of hearts is possible. Then that way, when your brain starts to tell yourself, maybe I'm not possible, like, maybe I can't get into my dream course, you think, no, I can, because I know I can. Then you literally, like, delude the delusion out of you. This is a super good quote. Delude the delusion out of you, right? You force into your brain, I can still achieve my goal. And then this process occurs, I mean, look, for the specific context of overcoming disappointment, like you can do it for about 2 to 3 days, maybe a week if it's very bad. But honestly, and this is kind of unrelated, but as a lifestyle thing, you should have a very positive self-image of yourself. And self-image comes from one, achieving things, but mainly self-image comes from you have a view of yourself, and then when you do certain things, that reinforces this view. And the initial switch from thinking, for example, if I think in my brain I am smart, then when I get good tests back, I reinforce I'm smart. But if I think in my brain I'm stupid, then I get bad tests back and it reinforces I'm stupider, I'm stupider, I'm stupider. In reality, I get the same number of bad tests and good tests, but the initial mental thing has a very big consequence on your overall self-image. And how to change that from I am stupid to I am smart, it's all mental work. It sounds like voodoo bullshit. Right? It sounds like voodoo. It sounds not real, but I swear to God, it makes so much of a difference that I'll make a whole new video on these self-limiting beliefs. But just for now, you should know that your self-image is entirely dependent. No, is 90% dependent on the automatic thoughts that your brain generates about you, which are then dependent entirely, like 90% by your automatic thought, your manual thoughts. So if you want good self-image, that then helps you make good choices about your, in terms of overcoming disappointment and all of life completely, all avenues of life. It starts with spamming your brain with automatic thoughts that are positive and that support you, right? Okay, where was I? So I was here. Okay, bet. So again, when it comes to reflection and reflecting on your disappointment, where was it? Yeah, okay, cool. So when it comes to reflecting on your disappointment, there are some questions that I hear that I don't really want to, answer because I think they're like kind of stupid, to be honest. Like, an example could be like, if I don't study enough for a test and someone asks me, "Oh, the Nuga, why didn't you study?" Um, and I guess there is a reason behind why it didn't happen, but asking the question like that, think about this. If somebody else asks it to you, how do you feel? You'd be quite defensive. You'd be like, "Bro, no, I've studied, bro. No, no, no. Who cares, bro? What's it to you?" Right? You'd get defensive. But if this question comes up organically with the questions that I'm going to provide here, then you're going to have a more honest answer. See, everything I'm saying right now is mental mindset things that, because it's so fundamentally mental and you can't like see it, people don't believe it. And then as a result, you may have the perfect work ethic, you may have the perfect structure of things, but your mentality is all wrong. And then you don't understand why things go wrong. Because if your problem is like a physical problem, like you're not studying hard enough, or you're trying to make it in the NBA but you're 4'10", like you can tell why it's not happening. But when your problem is mental, you can't see it. You can't see your thoughts. Most people aren't even self-aware enough to know their thoughts, right? So as a result, you don't actually fix it. So even though I'm saying what sounds like voodoo advice or like standard advice, trust me on this. That's why I'm giving so many like examples and things like this, because I'm giving you straight action steps on exactly what to do. And I've like overshared so much. I've told so many examples from my life, because I really want you guys to have genuine examples on what's wrong and what's right, because it seems so similar, but there's a big difference that I think, and I want to show it to you. So I hope that you I guess respect me for that. But anyway, the key questions that I ask myself are, is my end goal still achievable? And after I explain these questions, I'm going to explain why they're better than the other ones. So for now, I ask myself, is my end goal still achievable? So when it comes to academic, my end goal is to get into my dream course in university. I probably won't say it on the thing right. Actually, now I'll say it. I want to get into medicine or dentistry, right? Now, probably more dentistry, to be honest, but I'm not very sure. But I like the idea of being a healthcare professional. I really like that idea. I think helping people was something that I kind of more gravitate towards. I mean, I'm doing this channel for free because I want to help people, right? So my end goal is to get into those highly competitive courses. So when I'm studying, I guess, is there a point in me grinding out kinematics questions if I don't get into the course? No. Or if I'm not putting myself closer towards the goal? No, right? Then it's more worthwhile if I do something else, which I can't think of, because I really think my life calling is helping people in some type of way, which I think could be like healthcare. That's just personal stuff. I don't know why I said that on camera. But the point is, you want to first think, is my end goal achievable? If the disappointment that happened was a consequence so severe that it rules out all of your chances of getting into your dream, then for one, I think you're lying. Unless something drastic happened, like you got injured really, really badly, and now there's no way you can never be an athlete because you are very, very badly injured and could be even disabled or something like that, then safe to say that you may not be able to achieve your end goal. However, for the majority of things, there's always a different path to getting in. If you can't get into med or then undergrad, you can go postgrad. If you can't enter if you can't do a course and then transfer in, you can do others. There's always different pathways. So the first thing to think of is, my end goal still achievable? Now, if it isn't achievable, then you need to pick a new goal within 30 seconds. And you might be thinking, no, I need to reflect, I need to think, I need to consult my life books. Bro, pick something for the meantime, because the pain of the disappointment comes. Remember back over here when I said that helpless, the real feeling of disappointment, the real negativity comes when you feel helpless, when you feel like you're stuck and there's nothing you can do. When you give up on your goal, you are now helpless, because you had a direction that you were pointed towards, and now you're directionless. You have no direction. You can't be helped because you don't know where to go. Therefore, you can't be helped. Therefore, you're helpless. And that's where the disappointment really stems from. So, important thing, and that's also why I said here, you want to switch the lane, right? I'll move this webcam a bit. Switching the lane. You switch into a different goal, and then you chase down that goal. If for some reason I decide that dent and med is not for me, I then switch laterally. I go, okay, I see in the lane to this side of me is like, I don't know, actuarial science or engineering. On this side, it's like, I don't know, veterinary science. I have to switch into something else and then chase that relentlessly, and that's my new end goal. Now my new end goal isn't, I have to be a doctor. I mean, chances are, like in this country, there's always a way to become a doctor or become any job you want. But for example's sake, if my goal is to go as far as I can in this lane, and I come to an unfaceable roadblock, I switch lanes and I chase this roadblock. I chase this lane. And the way that things work are, the lanes often switch and connect later on. So you can, if you fail at one test in your semester, you can't go back and reattempt that test. No, you have to then pick another option, pick another pathway, and then go on that pathway and then succeed. So that's what I meant by switching lanes and not being helpless. So back to here. So first thing is, figure out, is it still achievable? If it's not achievable, then pick a new goal. If it is achievable, figure out, what's my next short-term goal? So the whole point is goal switching, where if my short-term goal was smash this 35% assessment and I didn't, now my next goal is, okay, I missed 35%. How can I satisfy the other 65%? I got 2 more tests coming up. Now, my new short-term goal, I don't care about what happened before. I don't care what mark I got. I could have failed. If it's possible to get a good mark in the class, that's what matters to me. I don't care what mark I got in that. It could be a 2 out of 100. Who cares? Who really cares, right? Because I now have a new pathway that I can go forward towards and forget the past. That's how you really forget the past, by having a path forward. You know, if my mom would tell me this and I didn't understand what she meant until now, and it makes so much sense. I would get a bad mark and my mom would say, son, or I should say puta, which is like in singular, it's son. She would say, puta, what's in the past is in the past. Don't worry about the past. And in my mind, I'm like, Mom, how can I forget about the past? I'm so disappointed and embarrassing myself. I'm ashamed and disappointed and sad. But if I have no path ahead of me, I'm forced to look back. If I'm at a brick wall, I'm not going to stare at the bricks. I'm going to look back behind me and see what went wrong. But if I have a light at the end of the tunnel, like if I see a clearing in the bush, then I'm going to aim towards that. It's much easier to aim towards a clearing in the bush when you see it in the first place. And then when you see a way out, you don't care about what happened in the past. You care about what's happening now, right? So, super important thing. No matter what, set your sights forward and switch your priority to something else that gets to your end goal, right? Now I think, what are the indirect goals I need to do? So, for example, let's say I need an average of, this is a fully made up example. I need an average of 75% in a course. Now, there's 2 tests, alright? I'm making this up. If I get a 50% on this test, that's below the average. So I'm gonna fail the class. But I have one more test. I do the calculations and I think, is it possible for me to still average 75% in the class? And then I do the maths and I see, if I get 100% in the next test, I can then get the end goal of the 75%. So now my indirect goal, and the reason why I call it indirect is because you haven't got full control over it, right? You have some control, and that some control comes from your direct goals, right? But I'll get into that in a second. For now, you think, what do I need to do next? I need to get 100% on my next test. Now I think, okay, I know that I need to get 100%. How do I do that? Now I think about my direct goal, my direct action. So that's going to look like, for this one subject, I'm going to do 2 hours a day. Or overall, I'm going to do 6 hours a day. And what that's going to say to me is that now I have a direct plan that I know every single day I will sit down, I will study for 6 hours, right? No matter what, I can still do it. I don't care if, no matter the circumstances, there's no doubt in my mind that I can always do my 6. I may not always get full marks, but I can always do my 6 hours. And that makes it very clear. This way, when you're looking at the brick wall and you're thinking, how do I get past here? I'm forced to look back and I see myself failing. No. I see a very clear path in the clearing. 6 hours of work every single day till my next test. That will get me to where I want. Now I think to myself, okay, I see a path. I feel bad. I feel really motivated to change myself. But I have a drive, I have a fire in me to do better. If I don't see this path, then this fire burns me inside and turns me into a pile of ashes. But if I see the path out, I then think, okay, I can use this drive and put it into that. And because of your disappointment, that shame and guilt will actually push you harder in this path. And that's how you stop it from breaking yourself down and building yourself up. Is by seeing the path in front of you and chasing it relentlessly and not getting bogged down by the brick wall, looking back behind you and seeing you as a failure, right? So you then figure out what direct actions you need to do. Now what you do is you do it again after a couple of days, after you, where is it? So the first one is still repeat to yourself, my end goal is achievable. Like I see in my PowerPoint, I've said over here, it is 100% achievable. Now I say, is it achievable? What the point I mean is, you can even replace this by, I can achieve it. So me personally, I am someone who can achieve this goal. So once you force it into your own brain enough times, what this means is that you're going to think a little bit irrationally, but in a good way. So if you think that you can't get full marks in this test, you won't. You're not gonna accidentally get good marks. That's never what? You're not gonna accidentally do well. But if you think genuinely in your brain, by forcing yourself to think manually, I can get full marks, I can get full marks, I can get full marks. Even when I'm walking around to get water, I'm in my mind, I'm like, I'm someone who can get full marks, I'm someone who can do this, I'm someone who can do that. Then your brain thinks manual thoughts. Then when you approach this, you're more ambitious. You're like, you know what? I am someone that can do this. I am someone that can reach that goal over there. I'm going to try harder to walk down this clearing and not look back behind me and turn to a pile of ashes. So that's the thing. Then you write it down clearly in a book. I use this book specifically for my journaling. And in there, I also do, if I get disappointed by something, I then write my plan about. I write it down so I know exactly what I need to do. That way, the next day when I wake up, instead of being, oh bro, yesterday I got a bad mark, I'm like, today I need to do 6 hours of work. I don't care what it's going to take, I'm going to do it. Then I give myself permission to forget about what just happened and focus on the future. And this is the only way to focus on the future without thinking about the past and being bogged down and depressed. So that is something, a very important distinction. So if you understand all this, you're unstoppable. And if you understand this from me, then I'm happy, because I was able to teach you something that's very spiritual and mental that you can't do manually, but you can do mentally. It's an action step. These questions here, they're like, ask yourself this question word for word, and you'll do much better than if you don't. So I'm giving you actionable steps. It's on you if you do them or not. And now this is why my advice over here is better. It's because the conventional advice, it just assumes that you can do, because if you analyze very carefully, what I'm telling you to do, reflect and decide what to do next, is those two things. Actually, have I even said reflect in the one before? I haven't said reflect, but I think, is my end goal still achievable? That counts as a reflection, right? And I guess in terms of direct actions, it's like, if I didn't study because I spent 4 hours a day on TikTok, then my direct action is don't spend 4 hours a day on TikTok. So if you actually think about it, what I'm telling you to do and what your uneducated, okay, that's a strong word, uneducated, but what your kind of clueless teacher is going to tell you to do is the same thing, but your teacher hasn't empathized with you enough to realize that you're in a piss poor mood and you can't think rationally enough. But what I'm telling you is that, first thing, give yourself the permission and space to feel like a failure, but then instead of staying in there, you do actionable steps to get out of that. And once you're out of that, then do your reflection process. And that is so much more effective. I'm surprised I haven't heard this anywhere else, and I've only heard this on my own. I mean, I could be not looking hard enough, but I think this is unconventional advice, and especially the part where you're deluding the delusion out of yourself by deluding yourself. That seems unhealthy. Like, trust me, your teacher wouldn't tell you, or your mother may not tell you, no, just tell yourself you can do it. No, delude yourself. Tell yourself lies. Lie to you. It's gonna be like unhealthy and not good for you and all that, but it's so much better for you. I'm trying to help you. And even though it doesn't sound super healthy, it is. It's much better. It's much more healthier to think of yourself as a successful person who failed once than a failure who just keeps on failing. And that's the crux of my advice. So my advice accounts for when you feel like a failure and helps you get past that. And it also removes the gutting feeling of disappointment, because when you're looking back at why you went wrong and you don't see the path ahead of you, what you're doing is you're at a brick wall and you're telling yourself, no, don't look forward. Literally look back at yourself and burn into a pile of ash. The fire in you that really wants to do something, no. Turn that drive, turn it upside down and burn yourself alive. But what I'm saying, no. We leave this for a little bit later. We first look at this way and do we see, is there a way out? once we confirm there's a way out, we feel much better, because the fire can then go in this way, can do something about it. Then we look back and say, okay, now what happened here? Now you didn't do much work. This is what I have to do to fix it, and then we can apply it moving this way. So yeah, my method protects your self-esteem, because something that I came to realize sort of, not recently, but I guess in my journey, what I've realized is that having a high self-image is just so important. If you think you're stupid, you will never be smart. Swear to God, if you think you're stupid, you will never be smart. I don't care about the Einstein quote about Einstein got C's in school. No. You're not Einstein. If you think you're stupid, you will never be smart. If you think that you're smart, then you'll be smart. Because if you think it's possible to be smart, then you see a path, then you can even go down the path. But if you think you're stupid, all you see is a brick wall, what you going to do? Run through the brick wall? Of course not. Not in this example. Not in my analogy. So yeah, some closing remarks for this video is, I'm publishing this at the start of the year, so you probably haven't had much disappointment yet. And here's the important thing: if you watch literally to here, then my presentation, my experiences, and my personal wisdom, obviously you resonate with my wisdom. You obviously look at me like this is someone who can relate to me, whose struggles are similar to mine, and can help me. So if you've made it this far, I trust that this video, but more importantly, me as a person, me, the new Gamanage, resonates with you. So if you've watched this far, then subscribe to help me, like to help me, comment to help me, bookmark this video to help you. Because as I said before, the first sentence I said in this video, chances are you'll fail at something and it's going to hurt. And when that happens, have this video on standby so you don't crash and burn, but you do what I did and come out of it, find the way out, and then have success at the end of the day. So you may not win every battle, but you may win the war if you see a path to win the war. So like I said, guys, if you watch this far, obviously you like me, or you hate me so much, or you think I'm like being cringe or some weird shit, and you don't want to watch my, or like you don't, I don't know. But if you've made it this far, chances are you like me, you like this style of me speaking about these things, you think that your views on the world match mine. So if so, you probably won't find anyone else who speaks like this on these topics that I do on platforms like this. So stay in contact so you can see more, because obviously I can help you. And yeah, I'm not trying to dick ride myself, but I think I'm worth the attention, because I'm going to help you a lot with the lessons that I taught myself, experience that I taught myself, and overall things that being someone in a similar position to you, the things that I learn and put together will be very helpful to you. So that's it. Yeah, if you like this, if you like me, then yeah, thanks for watching, and do what you need to do. Thanks.